My guests on the Culture Crawl today are with Icon, Iowa's oldest sci-fi and fantasy convention, which is coming up next weekend, across the Halloween weekend, in fact, at the Marriott Hotel in Cedar Rapids. This may be the largest group I've ever had for a Culture Crawl, so left to right, from my point of view at least, is Denny Lynch, Jed Peterson, Dana Beatty, and Adam Whitlatch. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for inviting us.
And we have a couple of writers, we have a couple of folks from the committee, we have an Icon historian. So I think I'm going to start off with Denny Lynch, who of course is very familiar to KCCK listeners as the host of Talking Pictures. So thanks for being here on a day that you normally aren't here to talk about something other than what you normally talk about.
That's the joy of being retired.
So the Icon, as I said, is the oldest sci-fi convention in Iowa, and it was actually started by a well-known, who's now well-known and huge and important sci-fi writer, Joe Haldeman, when he was at Iowa, correct?
Joe was a member of the Writers' Workshop in Iowa City and taught some classes. He met with students. They went up to Minneapolis and visited MiniCon one spring and decided, well, we could do that. And so in the 1975 in the summer, they had the first Icon. And it's been going for 40 years, or 39 years. Sorry, I'm on next year's committee, so I'm already jumping ahead.
Already thinking about the 40th
Right.
year. And this is, I didn't realize this until I attended last year. As the astute listener will know, I kind of dabble in this a little bit myself. This serves as kind of, it's a little bit of a reunion for Joe and some of his friends who were with him at the university back in those days. Some writers still, some not, and it's a little bit of a class reunion every year for them.
It's a party. In fact, one of our panels is always the history of Icon. How did this get started? And we all get together and tell the same corny jokes and old stories and have a lot of fun.
You think back over 39 years, and I know I think you've been to all of them, right?
Yes.
Are you the only person who's been to all?
I am the only survivor.
Who's been to each and every Icon.
Right.
If you had to pick one highlight out of the last 39 years, what would it be?
This is a personal one that actually happened at Icon 1. Our guest of honor was Roger Zelazny, who has sadly since passed away.
My favorite writer of all time.
Saturday afternoon, I'm in my room working on my costume, and there's a knock at the door, and I go over, and it's Roger Zelazny. And he goes, "Hi, I'm just coming around to all the rooms to meet all the fans." And he came in, sat down, chatted for 10 minutes, and then moved on to visit the others. I have never seen a pro do that since. And yeah, exactly. It was exciting. It was thrilling. It made it personal. He was obviously having a wonderful time. And I hope that people who come to this convention get chances to sit and talk with some of their favorites.
That is an opportunity that you get at a convention like this that you wouldn't get at, say, New York Comic-Con or something like that.
We are not a big group. We're 500 to 600 people. Would like more. But it's what they call a Relaxicon. It's a small convention. Come, get together, have some fun, go to panels, do some parties, learn stuff, read stuff, see stuff, make stuff, and have fun.
So panels and parties, which is pretty much the description of every convention I've ever been to, but it's a little bit of a different flavor at a sci-fi and fantasy convention. Dana, tell me about some of the activities that are going to happen over the weekend.
They have Blinkies this year, they are little electrical circuit boards that you can solder. They have basic kits. They're free for everyone. If you want to upgrade, you can pay a little bit of money and make more complicated boards. And if you get close to somebody else with a Blinky, they'll start blinking and synchronizing and talking to themselves.
Oh, interesting.
And they'll teach you how to do it if you've never done it before. It's an opportunity to learn this.
All right.
We have readings by a bunch of the authors. We have, I think, just over 35 authors coming. There is
the workshops.
Workshops.
There's a couple of writers' workshops.
There's a Paradise Icon that's run by Catherine Schaff-Stump.
Of the Kirkwood English faculty, who is also a writer.
There is a writer's workshop with Mickey Zucker-Reichert. She's got, I think, 2 or 3 authors that are beginning authors or amateur authors that are wanting to find out how their manuscripts are, getting tips on what to do, what not to do, how to make it better. We have DreamCon, which I came up with last year. It's for middle school through adults. $15. You meet with a bunch of the authors, before Icon actually starts on Friday the 31st.
And of course, those who are not into the sci-fi and fantasy convention thing, when they think about conventions like this, what they think of is costumes. And I'm guessing that since this is happening around the Halloween weekend, there's gonna be cosplay.
Cosplay, costumes, masquerade, hall costume contests. There's a dance is on Friday. Saturday is Wild Nept, which is a Celtic rock band. Excellent group.
So, Jed Peterson, your first book came out last year, or a couple of years ago, and I think that last year was your first Icon. So, as a first-time author going to something like that, what was the experience like?
It was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. The neat thing for me was, as an author, a lot of times, we work alone. We sit in a little room and we type on a little thing, and we don't really have much contact. So to go out and be surrounded, and literally you're surrounded by authors and editors and even the people that are just there as fans, they all have their own projects and they're all doing stuff. They're all very interested and very knowledgeable. So it's just wonderful to be a part of a community of like-minded people that really can kind of say, oh yeah, I get this and I get what you're doing and I understand it. And then you can kind of look at them and say, oh yeah, I get what you're doing too. So I really love the whole experience and can't wait for this year too. Adam
Whitlatch, you have a new book coming out. You've written, and it is it's a movie tie-in from a movie that unfortunately probably not many people in our audience have seen. I've seen it. It's an awesome animated feature that uses as its jumping-off point the War of the Worlds. Yes. And you're gonna do a screening of the movie, right?
Yep. Friday night at the convention from 10 o'clock till midnight, we're gonna have a screening of War of the Worlds Goliath, and in the last half hour of the screening, after the credits roll, we're gonna have a Skype video Q&A session with the director, Joe Pearson.
Oh, neat.
So fans will be able to ask him about the movie and anything that comes to mind.
Tell me a little bit about that process. Like I said, as the audience knows, I've done a little writing. Jed's a writer, but our stuff has been our stuff that we have created. You had to take this source material and then write a novel around it. How was that different than writing your own book?
Very different. It was like playing with someone else's toys in someone else's sandbox. I tried to stay faithful to the script while giving it my distinct flavor. I try to keep as much of the dialogue intact as possible because that's only fair to the fans. But there were a few times when I wanted to do certain things, and the director had to pull me back and say, "No, can't do that." It was actually a relatively easy process. Quickest novel I've ever written. It took me less than 6 months. And hopefully it should be out in time for the convention. We're in the final editing stages now.
Well, I had a chance to hear you read, I think, the first chapter at another event, and
at
it's
Demicon,
and it's marvelous, and I enjoyed the heck out of the movie. For again, those who are in this kind of thing, it features most of the cast of the old Highlander TV series as voice actors.
Yep, along with.
And Adam Baldwin.
Adam Baldwin of Firefly.
From Firefly and Chuck, yeah.
And Mark Shepard, who most science fiction fantasy fans will recognize Mark Shepard. Fantastic voice cast. So
we've dove into the sci-fi and fantasy thing here pretty heavily, but there are lots of things that are interesting for folks if they aren't even that tuned into sci-fi and fantasy. You've got a dealer room that has jewelry and books and swords. Different kinds of souvenirs.
We got a sword dealer this year.
If you are interested in steampunk costuming, there are always a couple of dealers doing that, which is very very hot these days. Yes, you can get your finery. And then the writer panels are good for anybody who has an interest in any kind of writing.
Correct.
You don't have to specifically be interested in sci-fi and fantasy. So the convention is next weekend, and you are still taking registrations, correct?
Correct.
How do people register?
Online at www.iowa-icon.com.
Okay.
There's all the tabs for the DreamCon and for registration and guests, and we have an art show. I think we need to have submissions in by the 24th. I don't even know what today is. 22nd.
There's also, don't forget, 7 or 8 continuing series of panels, discussions, music, bad joke telling,
Yes.
history, science, tech. A friend of mine is possibly doing a panel on nanotechnology and how do you build nanotubes and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of things to do, even if you don't read science fiction.
If you have an interest in writing, in technology, in science, or of course science fiction or fantasy, the Marriott is the place to be next weekend.
And there's also a book signing, a multiple author book signing on October 30th from 6:30 to 8 at Barnes & Noble on Collins Road.
And that is free and open to the public. Don't have to be a
And we're doing a
registration.
fundraiser then too. So if you mention Icon, part of the proceeds of all the sales in the entire store, the music department, the cafe, will go towards Icon. Not just from that 6:30 to 8, but for the entire day.
Okay. It's Icon, Iowa's longest-running sci-fi and fantasy convention, next weekend. Thursday at Barnes & Noble for anybody, and then the convention itself, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And again, on the web, iowa-icon.com,
Yes.
if you'd like more information. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.